The next 17, the maker of the Mon I reviewed a few years ago, has taken on the challenge, and he's decided to put together a small grouping of Cantina aliens in the Kenner style that never got made.
Why wasn't Stan Solo's Greedo included in this video?
Wait.
If you're a Star Wars fan, and especially if you're a Gen X original trilogy generation Star Wars fan, then Greedo needs no introduction. Introduced in the Kenner range in 1978, according to some people. I always think it's 1979 because the original 12 were in 1978, but apparently the next wave of Kenner figures actually showed up sometime in, I guess, mid to late 78. Who knew? The point is that Greedo is a mainstay in the original 21 Kenner line, and he's the most famous barfly of the Mos Eisley Cantina. The figures Kenner made of the Cantina aliens are hilariously inaccurate, and that's because Kenner did not have any reference material from the neck down. They had to make it up as they went. And in the case of Greedo, they really went all out, even though Greedo had the best reference material in the film for seeing what his costume looked like. So what we ended up with was a figure with accurate hands and a very accurate head, but he was wearing this very retro sci-fi green jumpsuit with big galoshes on. They looked like big Wellingtons that were just pulled onto his feet. At the time, as kids, we didn't really question that. I was more fixated on why Luke Skywalker's lightsaber was yellow instead of blue in the action figure line. I knew that the green jumpsuit was a little garish and didn't reflect what he looked like in the film, but I never really bothered to scratch that itch. 40 plus years later, enter Stan Solo into the ring on this topic. And as you know, Stan Solo is the best in the business when it comes to vintage style Kenner artisan action figures from Star Wars. And he took on the challenge of taking Greedo from the original run and saying, what if Kenner had actually made him with the proper costume and details? What would that have looked like? In the original vintage era, Greedo really didn't have any major variations. He had two slight variations between the Kenner and the Palitoy versions, but other than that, he was the same action figure, just a little bit of variation in the shading of his plastic and some of his paint. What Stan Solo has decided to do is scrap all that, keep the head and generally the hands, and turn around and make a movie-accurate Greedo. And the results are staggering. In the now grand tradition of Stan Solo, we not only get Greedo on a classic Star Wars vintage Kenner card back, but we also get him on a what-if Power of the Force card back with coin. But that's not the end of the fun with this amazing action figure. He also comes with a brand new blaster that is modeled after his actual prop in the Cantina, but given that simplistic detailing to make it look like something Kenner would have designed. Now, I could sit here and tell you what I've often told you, which is that he's an amazing figure with amazing detail, but still retaining that Kenner quality, and he could go perfectly into the vintage Kenner playset, no problem, and mingle with all your original Kenner and Palitoy action figures. He'd be right at home there. And he also has that extra bit of added detail that means he could feasibly have been a 1986 or 1987 Power of the Force figure. I could tell you all of that. I kind of just have. But what's more important with this figure, and I think it bears repeating, mainly because I don't think a lot of people out there have heard me yet. I've been saying this for years now, and if you don't see it with the Greedo, you're never gonna see it. So this is probably my last shot in trying to get you to plug in and realize this. This Greedo right here, with the accurized eye color, but still retaining the original sculpt of the Kenner head. The redone costume that still has vestiges of Kenner simplicity. So his vest, for example, seems to almost be partly modeled after Han's Bespin jacket as far as the torso and the pocket placement. I'm not saying it's not uniquely sculpted, but it borrows that design aesthetic to make it look Kenner. The magic that Stan Solo is able to glean from the Kenner Palitoy experience has always been second to none. And in this case, with the redone blaster, because by Power of the Force, they were starting to make a few new accessories and making them a little more detailed, I can see if they had done a revised Greedo, they might have revised that blaster because it is prominently seen in the film. You can get a sense of what it looks like, so it makes sense that they might have gone for it, in other words. This action figure represents the culmination, everything that Stan Solo has been amazing at all these years. And I'm not saying that this blows away everything Stan Solo has made in the past. Stan Solo has been on its A game since the beginning. Since that Han Solo and Stormtrooper disguise, Stan Solo has been hitting home runs. They've been playing perfect games. They really haven't missed a beat with any of the figures they've chosen to do. And if you're not going to finally see that with this, if you're not going to finally see the value that comes from it, I had people today on the video that I just did about the Next 17 Cantina aliens not understanding why the figures were 5 POA, but they were, higher priced than Hasbro Retro. And they don't seem to understand economies of scale, where an artisan figure maker trying to do it at this level with machine tooling and factory quality is going to end up having to make smaller runs, which means a higher per unit price. But because these are for premium die-hard Star Wars vintage collectors of Kenner and Palitoy, these occupy a different space in the marketplace. They are, by their very nature, because of the challenges of getting them from the blank page to reality without the backing of a Hasbro or a Mattel. Because that mountain is so much bigger, the price on the other side is going to be a different level of scale. But if you're not seeing that value, when you look at this Greedo, the level of detail that's in him, the level of quality in the options for carded versions, because the card backs for Stan Solo have always been premium quality, original Kenner quality in every way, not these flimsy retro designs. I say with all confidence, this figure blows every retro Hasbro Star Wars figure out of the water. And all of the Stan Solo ones have. And this one is no exception. I'm trying to get my hands on that Mon Mothma at some point, just to have a Kenner-style Mon Mothma. But do I have any confidence that it's going to be anything close to something like this? No. And the sad part with that Mon Mothma is I now have to pay something like $90 because I have to buy 5 other figures around her that I already have in Kenner original styles in the case out there in the studio. I don't want to rebuy those, but now they're forcing me to just to get the Mon Mothma. So technically speaking, that Mon Mothma is now going to cost me over twice to almost 3 times as much as this figure to get that one figure. So Hasbro knows what it's doing, and it's not doing this whole thing of, oh, well, they're so much more affordable and blah, blah, blah. No. You can't compare a megacorp to an artisan figure maker and those challenges. And in this case, the value that you're getting, not only per dollar on the initial purchase from Stan Solo, but if you've been paying attention to secondhand prices over the last 18 months, Stan Solo figures, both loose and carded, have gone kaboom in value. They are through the stratosphere. So if you want to talk about making an investment, if that's what you're worried about, not getting your money back on the thing, oh, the price is too high, oh my God. Buying Stan Solo is like buying Lego. As soon as that figure is retired, just like one of those Lego sets, it's going to start going up. I don't know if I can say the same for the Star Wars Hasbro Retro collection. I'm still seeing piles of them at Ollie's. And they're re-releasing, them now in these unaffordable 6-packs with gouged pricing. And you know it. So all I'm saying is, this Greedo is just, I shouldn't say just, this Greedo is another absolute 100% A-game showing from Stan Solo in a long, long line of amazing results from that company. And yes, these are shorter, smaller run artisan figures. They do have a higher price point because of the lower volume. But it's not engineered scarcity. It's because you're dealing with a smaller company with smaller resources, so, fewer resources. But I'll support a company like Stan Solo all day long when they keep delivering like this. And I hope that this isn't even close to the end. I hope this is just, as Winston Churchill said, I hope this is just the end of the beginning.